Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these operations has been discussed. Of the press also you are aware what are the different type of dies, clearance that also we have done. The difference between a simple die, compound die, combination die, that also you know how to select a press, what are the specification of the press, that also you are aware. Then in order to reduce the load, we provide the shear on the punch and on the die block. Now how to go for the blanking die design. So in blanking die design, these are the components, and these also I have shown a simple tool I have shown you. So a typical blanking die will consist of die blocks, then sticker plate, then pilots, then pressure pad, punch, then number of Allen cap screw, and dowel pins. Now, what is die opening? Die opening is the clearance when the ram goes to the top. So it is the clearance between the ram and the bed. That is what is called the die opening. So die opening should be sufficient so that your components can be ejected out if you are ejecting the component from the bottom. So the very first thing is a die block. So how to design a die block? Basically, the length and width of the die block will depend upon your number of stations. That is how many stations you have. If it is one station, like your compound die that is having blanking and piercing together, and suppose if the component size is say 50 by 50, component size is 50 by 50, then your length and width of the die block will be around 150 by 150. How do you got 150 by 150? You are adding 50 mm on all the sides. And why this is required? This is required to accommodate your guide pillar and guide bushings. Now the thickness of the die block will depend upon the blank perimeter. If the blank perimeter is more than 75, then thickness is 90, or you can round it off to 20. If the perimeter is 75 to 250, then your die block thickness is 25, and if it is more than 250, then die block thickness is 30. Now here there is a mistake. Can anybody tell me what is the mistake? In this column there is a mistake. Can anyone tell me what is the mistake here? Please feel free. Hello?
Greater than equal to something.
Yeah, exactly. So this greater than or equal to, if the blank perimeter is less than or equal to 75, then the die block thickness is 20. Okay, good. Now what is your die opening? This is a die block. You can see this is the straight portion. This is a straight portion, and there is a taper thereafter. Generally, we keep straight portion of 5 mm and then we provide a taper. The purpose of providing taper is to hold the slug easily. So slug can fall down easily. Suppose if you keep this straight, like say this is the blank size, blank diameter of say 25 mm. If you keep straight throughout, then there are two problems. One thing is that 25 size you have to maintain along the entire thickness. So your manufacturing cost will increase because maintaining 25 for 5 mm and maintaining 25 for 50 mm thick block will definitely cost you more. So that's why you have to just keep 5 mm straight line and then relieve it. This is also called as the relieving. Then second what happens, like suppose if you are keeping this straight throughout, then when the slug is falling down, there is possibility that slug may get jammed because this size is in tolerance. Like suppose if you are doing a blanking and if the blank diameter is 25, then this size will be exactly 25 and you will have some tolerance of 20 microns. So this size will be 25.00 and 25.02. Now what happens when the slug falls down, suppose it becomes slightly inclined, then it gets jammed because the total size, this size is 25.00 to 25.02 throughout. So that is the another difficulty when you are keeping this size 25 mm throughout. So that's why you have to provide a taper and this is what is called the diagonal. Now either you can have taper like this or you can have a counter bore. You can provide a counter bore here. You can provide a counter bore. So even if you provide a counter bore of 26 mm, that is also enough. So zero point 0.5, zero point 0.5 clearance on both the sides. So your slug can fall down easily. Only disadvantage of this die opening is you will have very less regrounds. Reground means what? After say 10,000 pieces or after say 1 lakh pieces, you need to regrind this top surface. You need to grind this top surface. So when you are regrinding, that time you are removing a material of 0.5 or 0.3. Let us take it as 0.5. And if this is 5 mm, then how many times you can do the regrinding? 5 divided by 0.5. So that is 10 times. You can do regrinding for 10 times. So that means you can use this die block for 1 lakh into 10. That is 10 lakh pieces. But if it is throughout, say 50 mm, then 50 divided by zero point 0.5. That means you can regrind this 100 times theoretically. Of course, you cannot make this zero because you will have to keep some thickness of at least 20 mm. So you cannot grind it totally. So even if you keep the thickness of 20 mm, you have 30 mm for regrinding. So in 30 mm, 30 divided by zero point 0.5, you can at least regrind for 60 times. So 60 times means you can get 60 lakhs pieces. Whereas if you are keeping a straight length of 5 mm, you can get 10 lakh pieces. This is the disadvantage of die opening. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So that was your die opening. Then next is your strip layout. Before you go for progressive die design, you need to design strip layout. Strip layout is nothing but this. So let us say this is L-shaped component. This is a L-shaped component. So if you are keeping it like this much material will be scrap. This much material will be scrap. So in this case, scrap will be more. Now suppose if your layout is like this, then your scrap will be reduced. So your utilization of the strip will be more. Strip utilization will be more here in this case. You can try for some more options also in order to have more strip utilization. Normally when we do progressive die design, of course you don't have in your term of, but whenever uh, like your higher semesters they have progressive die design. So in that case we ask them to give at least four options, and in that whichever is giving more utilization, that option is selected. Now how to find out the utilization? Utilization, that is strip utilization, is found by the formula area of the component into number of components divided by the area of the uncut strip. So in the denominator you have area of the uncut strip. Suppose this strip, the length of the strip is say 1000 and the width of this strip is say 20 mm. So what will be the area of the uncut strip? Suppose if the length is 2000 and the width is 20 mm, what will be the area of the uncut strip?
Multiply.
So it will be 2000 multiplied by
40,000.
20, so 40,000. Okay. Now in this 2000 mm length, you have to find out how many components you can blank, how many components can be made. Say if this width is say 50 mm or 48, for calculation, easy calculation, suppose if this width is 48 and the distance between the two is say 2 mm, so what will be the pitch? Pitch will be 50 mm. Now the length is 2000, so 2000 divided by 50, so many components can be made. So 2000 divided by 50 will be how much? 40 pieces, correct? 40 components. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Now this 40 component. Now suppose if the area of one component is say this is 50 and suppose if this is 18, so you can find out area of the one component, that is nothing but 18 into 50, and this, suppose if you want to find out the area of this, then you have to divide this into two rectangles and find out the area. So you get the area of one component multiplied by number of components 40 divided by your area of the uncut strip. So this is what will give you the utilization of the strip, and you have to find out the options in such a way that the strip utilization is 70% at least. That means 30% is waste, and you have to select that option. Is this clear? This strip layout. Now here, this is another option, and obviously in this layout, your utilization is going to be more than this. So that is what is your strip layout is. Now say this is a strip. Now when you are feeding the strip, let us say this is the first component which is going to be blank. This is the first blank, second blank, third blank. This is what the width of the component is which is given. Now this is called as the scrap bridge. This is called as the scrap bridge. It is the distance from the edge of the strip. This is called as the back scrap and this is called as the front scrap. See, you cannot do the blanking exactly at the edge and exactly at the width. You'll have to keep, otherwise the strip will not move ahead. So you'll have to have some thickness here. You'll have to have some thickness here. You'll have to have some thickness here. So how to calculate that? So front scrap is calculated by A is equal to T plus 0.015 times H, where the T is nothing but a strip thickness. So now suppose if my width of the component is 20 and thickness of the strip is 2, so it will be 2 plus 0.015 into 20. That will be the value of A. Once you get A, you have to calculate the total width of the strip. So what will be the width of the strip? It will be H plus A plus A, that is 2A. Then how to find out the value of B? So B is given from this relation. If the strip thickness is up to 0.8, then you take it as 0.8. If the strip thickness is between 0.8 to 3.2, then it is equal to the strip thickness. Like suppose if the strip thickness is 2 mm, then the value of the B will be how much? 2 mm itself. If it is more than 3.2, then you have to take a constant value. That means if the strip thickness is 4 mm, you have to take the value of B as 3.2 itself. Now coming to the dimension F. F is nothing but the pitch. F is nothing but the pitch. And this can be calculated once you find out the value of B. So if the length of this component is 50 mm, you have to add the value of B to get the pitch. To get the pitch. Okay? Is this clear? How to find out the pitch? Once you got the pitch, then you can get the number of the blanks. The number of blanks will be L minus B divided by the pitch. L is nothing but this length. You have to subtract B from there. Like suppose if the value of B is 2 mm and if the length is 2000, so 2000 minus 2, so that will be 1998 divided by the pitch. So 1998 divided by, suppose if the pitch is 50. So how many components you will get? 1998 divided by 50. How much it comes? Can anybody tell me? So what will be the number of components that can be produced? If the pitch is 50, yeah, hello? If the pitch is 50 and if now the length is 1998, what will be the number of components that can be produced? Anyone? Please feel interactive. I am there to help you, not to bother you.
So, can you show the formula again?
Formula it is, if this is the total length L and the pitch is 50. So now from L we have subtracted this distance, that is B, that is 2 mm. So we got 2000 minus 2, so that is 1998. And the pitch is nothing but this distance from this to this. So suppose now if the pitch is 50 mm, L is 2000, that is 2 meters, minus B, that is 2 mm, so that is 1998. So how many components can be produced in a single strip? There is no formula as such. If you want to have a formula is like this. Formula is nothing but n, that is number of pieces, is equal to L minus B divided by the F. F is nothing but a pitch. Pitch is also known as feed or advance.
So 39.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to check that because if you divide 1998 divided by 50, then you get 39.96, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
But you cannot say I got 39.96 component. So you have to say 39 component because the last component will be incomplete. So that cannot be counted. Like in my family, I cannot say I have 2.5 persons, either two or three. Okay, so now you know how to calculate this B, how to calculate A, how to calculate number of components, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then burr. Burr is nothing but when you are punching from the top at the bottom of the and when you get a blank. So you have to take the blank in your hand and you can check for small amount of burr. Burr is nothing but a small amount of material which you will find across the perimeter. Across the perimeter. So if your punch is very sharp, then you will not get any burr because there is a cutting action, there is a shearing action. As the now moment progressively, when you are cutting, say after 10,000 pieces or after 15,000 pieces, your punch starts getting blunt, and then there is no cutting action. Actually, there is a folding action. So the material gets folded. That is what is called as the burr. So by judgment, by moving your finger across the perimeter, you can understand whether it is a time for the punch to regrind or you can continue. If the burr is more, then definitely you have to give the instruction and remove the punch and send it for the regrinding. Generally, you get around 1 lakh pieces between two subsequent regrinds. 1 lakh pieces. From the burr, you can also tell whether the punching from which side, which is the top position and which is the bottom position. Generally, the burr is always at the bottom. So, if you can feel the burr, then you can definitely say that this is the bottom portion of the component. This is what is nothing but called as the burr direction. This is what is called as the burr direction. Then press used. The very first, now once you have decided, so very first thing is that you have to decide for the option and you have to decide for the, you have to calculate your scrap utilization, your strip utilization, not scrap utilization, sorry, strip utilization you have to calculate. Once you have calculated strip utilization and once you have determined your layout, then you have to calculate the center of pressure. But before that, I forgot to tell you that you have to, before you go for the center of pressure, you have to calculate your press tonnage. You have to calculate your press tonnage. What should be the capacity of the press? That has to be determined. Capacity of the press. Now, how to calculate the press tonnage? Press tonnage is equal to blanking force plus piercing force plus stripping force. And how to calculate the blanking force, that I will teach you later on, or you can write it down. Blanking force is equal to sheared area multiplied by shear strength. Blanking force is equal to shear area multiplied by shear strength. Now remember, shear area is not cross sectional area. Sheared area is not a cross sectional area. Suppose if I take a circle of say 25 of say 30 dia, if I take a circle of 30 dia, then what will be the and thickness is 2 mm, strip thickness is 2 mm, then what will be the sheared area? What is the perimeter? 2 pi r. So that will be nothing but pi into 30 multiplied by thickness. that is 2 mm. This is what is your sheared area. And thickness and cross sectional area is nothing but pi r square. So cross section will be pi into 30 ka square, that is 900 pi. So remember, for blanking force or for punching force, you have to always consider the shear area into thickness and not cross section area. And stripping, once you have got the blanking force and punching force, you have to add. Suppose if the blanking force is say 5000 and punching force, for punching you have to consider the cross section area, not the shear area. For blanking force you have to consider the shear area. Now for the stripping force you have to take 10% of the blanking force and punching force. So suppose if your blanking force is 500 Newton and if your punching force is 400 Newton, so the total of this is 900 and your stripping force will be 10% of this 900, that will be 90. So 900 plus 90, so that is 1000 Newton. So that means how much tonnage? 1000 newtons is equal to how many? What will be the tonnage? If the force is 1000 Newton, how much will be the tonnage? Please feel free. Don't feel shy. Be interactive. 1000 Newton is equal to how many tons? Okay, 1000 Newtons is equal to how many kg? Thousand Newton is equal to how many kg? Or how many kgf? Kilogram force. 1 kilogram force is equal to 9.8 Newton or 10 Newton. So 1000 Newton will be how many kilogram force, Mr. Peter?
1 is 10, so 10,000.
No, I'm sorry. 1000 Newton will be equal to 100 kilogram force.
100.
Oh,
100 kg. So how many? How much? What will be the tonnage? One thousand kg is equal to 1 ton. No? So what will be the tonnage? 0.1 ton, correct? So this is how you determine the press tonnage. Are you getting it?
yes, sir.
Here. Then die cost. Now die cost, that depends upon the production. That is how many pieces you want, whether you want 1 lakh pieces or 5 lakh pieces or 10 lakh pieces, whether you want to make the die soft or whether you want to make the die hard, what kind of material is used, whether you are using high carbon high chromium material or whether you are using hot die steel or whether you are using P20. So on that your die cost will depend. Now coming to the cap screw and the dowel pin. Cap screw is also called as the Allen cap screw, or it is also called as the Allen headed bolt. And here there are two plates shown. The purpose of dowel is to align these two plates. Usually the dowel is nothing but a cylindrical ground pin. Dowel is nothing but a cylindrical ground pin, usually of diameter 6. So the purpose of dowel is to align these two plates together. That means this hole in both the plates should be rimmed. We all know what is rimming. Rimming is the finishing process that is done after drilling. So dowel can align these two plates so that axis of the punch, axis of the top half and the bottom half will be aligned. But what about fixing of this plate to this plate? Because dowel will not fix up the plate, it will just align. And obviously, number of dowel pins required will be two, because if you are using one dowel pin, it will not get aligned because the top plate can rotate. So in order to prevent that rotation, you need to have two dowel pins diagonally placed each other. And this Allen cap screw is used for bolting. Now remember, the threading will be only in one plate. This is the common mistake the students they do. They show threading in both the plates. Threading has to be shown in only in one plate, usually at the bottom plate. Then here in the top plate, there will be a free hole. This will be a free hole. Suppose if you are using the bolt of M8 size, then you can have a free hole of 9 mm. So here there will be two lines. You will show two lines. Here it will be threading. And then what about head? Counter bore. Counter bore again has to be a free hole. Suppose if M8 head will be around 16 mm, it is two times. So this counter bore should be of 70. The size of the counter bore should be 70. Is this clear? So again there will be two lines here, two lines here. There will be two lines here and two lines here. There will be two lines over here also. So if I am using M8 Allen cap screw, this size will be 9 mm and this size will be 17. Then depending upon the head size, the thickness of the head is around 1.25 times the diameter of the bolt. Empirically, you can take this thickness as equal to the same size of the diameter. Like suppose if you have M8, then this size also can be 8 mm. So if the head size is 8 mm, the counter bore should be around 9 mm, so that your head sinks down. It doesn't comes up, because if your head is protruding out, it is going to foul with something. Like suppose if the strip is moving here, you are loading the strip here, and if your head is coming out, it will obstruct the movement of the strip. So this is what the use of your Allen cap screw and dowel is. Now the number of cap screws, minimum to you have to use two, and total number of cap screw to be used depends upon the die block area. If your die block area is 180, then you can use M10 का two cap screws. Cap screw is nothing but Allen cap screw. It is also called the Allen bolt also. It is also called the Allen headed bolt. Many words. If your die block area is 250, then you can use M10 का 3. And what about the length of the cap screw? Suppose if I am using M10 cap screws, then with my length of the bolt, whether it should be 15 or whether it should be 20, 25, 30, because in the market the bolts are available as per the various lengths. So remember, the length should be minimum 1.5 times the diameter. That means if I am using M10 Allen cap screw, the length of the cap screw should be minimum 15 mm, preferably 20, twice. Because whenever you are procuring the material cap screws, you need to specify the length also. So how you will send the purchase order: M10 Allen cap screw, M10 by 20 mm long Allen cap screw, quantity 4 numbers or quantity 50 pieces, like that. And similarly for the dowel pin the minimum 2, and there is no need to go for diameter 10, even diameter 6 is also sufficient. Then punch. The length of the punch should not be long enough so that it becomes slender. The more the length, the more the chances of buckling down. It may buckle. Again, after a certain number of strokes or after a certain number of components, the punch becomes blunt. So you will have to regrind it. Generally, a good quality punch, hardened and ground, can give around 1 lakh pieces, 1 lakh strokes. So after 1 lakh pieces, you have to grind it. And for grinding, 0.5 millimeter material is sufficient. So how many pieces, what is the production you want? Accordingly, you can go for length of the punch. If you are going to produce a 10 lakh pieces, then even if the length of the punch is 25 mm, which is sufficient, you can easily get 10 lakh pieces. Because if you are doing zero point 0.5 meters after 1 lakh pieces, you need to grind only 5 mm in order to get 10 lakh pieces. There is also a formula for calculating the punch length in order to avoid the buckling. This is based on the Euler's formula, that is pi d upon 8 under root of ED tau s into T. Tau s is nothing but the shear strength. Then strippers. Remember, you have already calculated the length of the die block, length and the width of the die block, isn't it? See, this is what is going to be your die block. Suppose if there is a one station only, the die block, and this is 50. So 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here. So the die block size will be 150 by 150. The same size will continue for your stripper. Stripper will be of the same size, 150 by 150. Only its thickness need not be 30 mm. You can have 10 mm thick stripper because there is no load coming on the stripper. The purpose of stripper is to just to press the strip so that when this punch is moving up, that time there is a tendency that the strip will be lifted up. There is a tendency that strip will be lifted up. If there is no stripper, the strip will lift up and that can cause the accident. So in order to keep your strip pressed down, you have to use a stripper. So even 5 mm thick stripper is also sufficient. And in stripper, I told you that there are two kinds of stripper: fixed stripper and spring-loaded stripper. The fixed stripper is fixed to the die block. This is stock guide. Stock guide also can be 5 mm thick. Stock guide is also called as the strip guide. The purpose of stock guide or strip guide is to guide the strip. This is your strip piece. Here of the strip. Imagine if there is no stock guide, the strip can move like a snake. It can move like a snake anyhow. Now, if there is a strip guide, suppose if the width of the strip is say 25 mm, then strip guide can have a slot of 26 or 25.5. So your strip is guided very fluently. It doesn't move like a snake. Now suppose if the strip thickness is 3 mm and if the strip guide thickness is 5 mm, so there is a clearance of 2 mm. So there is a chances of lifting this strip, but the strip will lift only 2 mm up. There is a clearance of 2 mm, so it is not dangerous because there is a stripper from the top. So there are no chances of the accident. And remember, this strip is fixed to this die block with the help of the Allen cap screws. Now, what happens in spring-loaded stripper? Spring-loaded stripper is like this. So, advantage of spring-loaded stripper is it provides the entire area. So, this is what is your strip is or stock. So, entire area of the stripper is used to hold the strip. So, it gives you better grip. At the same time, there is no question of lifting the strip. Like in fixed stripper, we have seen that this strip will lift by 2 mm, but here there is no question of lifting the strip even by 0.1 mm. So this is the advantage of spring-loaded strip, and this is the difference between fixed stripper and spring-loaded stripper. Like fixed stripper, it is simple in construction, whereas spring-loaded, it is complicated. Why complicated? Because you have to provide the counter force here, so that you can fix a spring and a pin. Fixed stripper is generally used for the thick sheets, whereas spring loaded stripper can be used for thin sheets also. Then fixed stripper is used when the feeding is done by the hand, whereas spring loaded stripper can be used when you are using a roll, that is a coiler. Then when large stripping force is required, fixed stripper are proven to be more useful. Comparatively, the spring loaded stripper they give less less force. Then the space required is less in fixed stripper, whereas the floating stripper requires more space because it has to accommodate the springs and the pin. So that's why the area of the stripper will be more. Then there are different ways of holding the punches. These are your punch. These are your punch, and this is your punch plate or punch holder. So you can see here this punch is held with the help of the Allen cap screw. If the punch is bigger, then there are two punches. There are two cap screws provided, Allen cap screw. Try to understand the difference between the fixing of this and this figure. Just look at this. Here the punch, this is a punch, and punch is mounted inside the punch plate, and punch plate is fixed to the punch hole by Allen screw. Whereas in this case, the punch is provided with the flange, and then this flange is bolted to the punch holder by this Allen cap screw. This is the difference. So obviously this kind of arrangement is used for bigger punches, whereas this is for the medium punches, and this is for the smaller punches. So these are the ways of fixing the punches. Okay, we'll continue next time. If you have any doubt, you please ask, and please pass the message to Harshal. If there are any problems,
Sir, he
please.
said that he has uploaded it now because yesterday he was facing certain problems.
No, but the orientation of the answer paper is not correct. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Uh,
I
Orientation.
have told him to contact you. I don't know if he has contacted
Then
you
it
yet.
is orientation, so it becomes very difficult for assessment. Because if see, imagine like say if one page is at 90 degree, other page is at 180
Uh,
degree, then frequently I need to keep on rotating. And first thing is that I need to download that answer sheet, and then I need to keep on
yes, sir,
rotating.
understood.
You try to understand my difficulties.
Sir,
So
I have told him to contact you, but I don't know if he has contacted you yet. So
no, he has not contacted.
I remind him, sir.
Are there any issues? Please feel free to discuss.
No, sir. No issues.
Sure. No?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please feel free to discuss. And again and again, I'm telling I am there to help you and not to trouble. Uh, do you feel by any chance that I'm troubling you, Sandra?
Yes, sir. I'll let you know.
No, do you feel that I'm troubling you?
No issues, sir.
No issue. Okay. Yeah. Shall we stop then?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
what?
you, sir.
Hello?